my great pleasure to recognize Dr. Michelle Tavar, who is our Associate Director of Education and Latino Initiatives. And in her work with Latino initiatives at the museum, she provided this platform for this exhibition. And also, she worked very closely with our HMH curatorial team, who then brought it to life. So I'd like to recognize Carol Manley, who is our Chief Curator of Collections and Exhibitions, and also her wonderful assistant curator, JT Bruzanga, who worked hand in hand with the artists that were involved in this exhibition and making it possible. And I think what's so very important is that we utilized guest curators for this exhibition. And they are with us this evening. And Rosa Ana Orlando, as you can see, and Gabriela Magana. So I'm so happy to have you here this evening to be part of this talk. Before I get started, though, it is really important that we thank our sponsors who made this possible. As you know, these exhibitions are expensive. And so I wanted to thank JPMorgan Chase and their employees for their generosity in supporting tonight's virtual opening program. And also a huge thank you to our exhibition sponsors who are starting at the top with HEB, our partner sponsor, United Airlines, title sponsors, Bayside Printing Company, Inc., and LIMB Company in memory of June Essenthal Eldon. I'd also like to recognize guest juror Susanna Monteverde and thank her for her very hard work involved in this important exhibition. She is an art activator specializing in contemporary art, who then selected 3 pieces to win $2,500, $1,500, and $1,000 cash awards within the exhibition. So we have a first, second, and third place winners that when you visit the exhibition in person, you'll be able to see those pieces, of course. So it's now my pleasure to introduce to you our curators of this beautiful withstand. And let's start with Gabriela. So Gabriela was born and raised in Mexico and is an artist and curator based here in Houston. She holds a BA in painting from the University of St. Thomas and is currently working on an MA in arts leadership from the University of Houston. Rosa Ana Orlando is originally from Venezuela and is a museum specialist with extensive knowledge of art history. She has more than 15 years of experience in art collection management, as well as a strong background in exhibition planning and design. So welcome to you, Gabriela and Rosa Ana. We're so happy to have you here this evening. And I'm going to let you take over the program going forward.
I would like to thank the Holocaust Museum of Houston, Dr. Zuniga, for having that vision of opening its doors to the Latinx community in Houston, and for having that vision of giving the community what desperately needs, which is opportunities to engage in dialogue and the opportunity to see our people recognized, seen, and empowered. I would like to thank also Carol Manley, Chief Curator, for her ongoing support. JT Busanga as well, of course, for helping us and the artist of this exhibition. And of course, Michelle Tovar for being you, unstoppable and inspiration to many. Susana Monteverde for taking that challenging task of being the juror of the exhibition. And of course, Rosa Ana. I couldn't have had a better partner in this project. Rosa Ana.
Thank you, Gabby. Also, thank you, everybody. And I'm so super thrilled to be here. I would like, of course, to also thank Dr. Zuniga for your introduction and for trusting me to be part of this wonderful exhibition. I want to, of course, thank very deeply Carol Manley and JT Busanga for their input, for their ongoing support. Of course, this could have not been possible without them. Also, thanks to Michelle Tovar, because she's, wonderful, and I know that her um, position was like very, very crucial from the very beginning. I am especially grateful to you, Gabby, because just for thinking of me when it was time to choose a co-curator. I cannot express with words how grateful I am to be part of this. Of course, also I want to thank Susana Monteverde, who was our, for acting as juror. It was not an easy task, and I think nobody knew at the beginning when she said yes how hard it was going to be. I mean, if it was hard for us to select the pieces, all of the pieces, imagine for her to select the winners. And last but not least, I really want to thank all the artists who participated. We received an overwhelming response from the community. The quality of their artwork is absolutely amazing. I know many of the artists are connected, so I just really want to thank you. It has been for me an honor to work with your work, and it is thanks to you that we have the exhibition that we have. So now we're going to continue. Gabby, please tell us a little bit about the process of how this all started.
Yes, and for that, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Yes, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the exhibition came about. It resulted from an initiative to explore the different interpretations of the concept of resistance and its ramifications, of course, through the eyes of Houston Latinx artists. We decided to release an open call to let the artists basically respond to that concept and to let them tell us their interpretation of the concept of resistance. We left it as broad as possible to hear from the community. And indeed, we heard a lot of voices in many different themes. We received over 200 submissions that explore different ideas that impact the community.
And then just to continue a little bit about what happened after we received this overwhelming amount of submissions, we started noticing, some like common themes because we left the word conflict very open, and we noticed that, of course, the interpretations of that were also different. And we started just grouping like kind of the works that had themes in common. And we came up with then that's how we decided to organize the exhibition. So the exhibition is organized by themes, and those are sub themes that explore resistance, but from like different points of view. Of course, the themes are as they need to be fluid and flexible, because there are, of course, themes that are in different areas of the exhibition, but we decided to place them in one just because of the dialogue they have with the other pieces. So that's how the exhibition is organized, and we're going to go a little bit in more depth of each theme, and we're going to show an example of one work that belongs to that theme, just because we don't have the time to show more. But all the works are absolutely amazing. We are just incredibly grateful to have the quality of works we have. So Gabby is going to continue with the first section.
Starting off, we have the social and political turmoil section. And in this section, artists basically are reflecting on socio-political issues, either from their countries or in the USA. And they are talking from either a personal perspective and also as witnesses of such issues. We encounter in this section ideas of what home is, shelter, injustices, marginalization, or persecution. Other artists also commented on the aftermath of war and devastation, and others are commenting on corruption and oppression. For example, we have the work of Mo Penders. They are commenting on the aftermath of war, the Salvadorian War. This is a collaboration with their father, and they is talking about how the war was funded by the U.S. because these are military planes that were given by the US to the Salvadorian military forces. And then people who got displaced are not welcomed to find a new home. Then we move on.
Yes, the immigrant experience is our second section, and it basically explores themes of tradition, heritage, roots, and family. It also deals with exploring the need of belonging, the need for belonging, and feelings of nostalgia, and also the guilt we feel. I'm an immigrant myself, so I totally identify with this section. The guilt we feel to live in a country that is full of opportunities and is just uh, amazing, but we leave behind our home countries where we have family members and friends who are struggling. So that kind of dichotomy dilemma, that's a part of that section. Then it reflects also about what we find in the new country, all those feelings. So it's a very interesting section. Of course, this all of the works, because it's from Latinx Houston-based artists, we are either first generation or second generation immigrants, but these particular pieces, the ones from this section, deal more with these issues that I'm discussing. And the example of this section is actually our first prize winner, Jessica Gonzalez. Uh, Her work is absolutely beautiful and very meaningful. Um, this piece is part of a series that is also in the exhibition. The whole series is there. Well, three photographs from the series plus the artist book. But what she's doing is she is investigating how the process of getting asylum and also the process of deportation occur. And she, from personal experience, she has her father who was ended up being deported, and her mother got asylum. And her father is from Honduras, her mother is from Guatemala. So here in this particular picture, she has the photograph of her mother, and the letter superimposed is the letter of when she's seek asylum. So it is it's a beautiful way of kind of um, giving personal, I mean, getting something personal that is just a paper, when you put the image of someone who is also so important for her. So it is a wonderful series. And then we move on to, yeah, the following section.
Yes, and then we move on to the US border situation. That, as you can imagine, this is a theme that impacts the Latinx community in a lot of ways. And a lot of art is reflected on these issues. Some of them emphasizes the family separation issues, others the condition on the detention centers. Artists also talk about the dangers of crossing the border, and the stories, both from a personal perspective and from a more general perspective. Some other artists engage in more philosophical approaches, dealing with questions like what a border really is, or the idea of being in between, not being from here nor there. That feeling that many of us can feel, being in this country full of opportunities and leaving behind our family members in other countries. And in this section, we have the second prize winner, which is this one, Angel Artigue, with his forensic burial map of cadaver after exhumation number 2. This is a very interesting work, thought-provoking, because these drawings, we have 3 by Angel Artigue as well, the same as the first prize winner. And these drawings serve as documents of the forensic process of exhuming a map and mapping the corpse from its burial site in the US border. And these drawings also emphasize the type of geographical map, and basically Angel Artigue is seeking to blur the land and the body. He investigates this theme of blurring the land and the body. These maps depict the biological and political traces that serve as guides for spiritual contemplation, healing, and resurrection. Then we move on to the identity section.
Yes, we have a whole section where the artists kind of explore the theme of identity. I think that was one of the more recurring themes we have, uh, because it is related to many other of the themes. In here, we have works that have to do with a more like very like general perspective, like genetically, what is it about genetics or in our DNA that kind of marks our identity. It also, there are other works that explore more the physical aspects or like physical features that make up our identity. Also, how roots, memory, heritage, how those are also part of our identity. And finally, there are pieces that reflect on the fact of being an immigrant as a key element of our identity. And the piece we selected to kind of exemplify that section is by Julia Barbosa, and is related to another piece that she made in a collaboration with another artist. And she's reflecting on how schools are places where limited narratives are taught. This is a book cover that she designed that is, the title is very self-explanatory, where in history is my history. So what are they teaching in school? Where we as immigrants, we as Latinx members of the US, where do we belong? And those are very important questions, of course, because we know how history is always very limited, but she's reflecting on that. So that's a very interesting work to kind of show here, because it is totally related to identity.
And moving from identity, we go to the queer experience. In this section, artists examine the complexities involved on being part of the LGBTQ plus community. Here, artists are grappling with concepts of resistance and conflict, but from an internal point of view. They decided to talk about those inner struggles, that inner self search, and exploring themes and ideas such as homophobia, discrimination, machismo, and stereotypes that the society has, and society standards as well. To exemplify this part of the exhibition, we have Angel Castellan's piece. This is a very personal piece in which Angel opens up to us as viewers, telling us about the story of him coming out to his father. And in this piece, he has accompanied this piece by a poem that Angel wrote about that experience and how that happened to him coming out to his father, then his father not talking to him for a month and then calling him back again. And that's something that it's very touching. It's a small piece that pulls you in to that intimate space that he decided to share with us.
And then we have another section with women's issues. And here in this section, there are several themes explored, of course. We have themes like gender roles, beauty standards, society's expectations. We also have pieces that reflect on the challenges associated with being a woman. Also, the section investigates the pressure women feel to fulfill all these roles that are expected from us. And finally, there are like 2 or 3 pieces that reflect on domestic violence, who is, of course, a very important topic that still remains taboo in most societies. The piece we selected to discuss here it has a beautiful history. This is a photograph, but the history behind is what kind of we thought is absolutely fascinating. This is the picture of an orphanage where girls were being victims of all sorts of abuses. I mean, all kinds, all of them. And they decided to escape. But of course, the police caught them and took them as hostage and put them all in a room. And then they lit a mattress on fire, thinking that would make them release them. And they did. And I mean, the fire went on for hours. And that sparked huge set of protests in Guatemala, and lots of conversations about it. So, and it is called Hogar Seguro, which translates to safe home, and which is what that was supposed to be for them, and it ended up being the total opposite of that. So yeah, we can continue to the next section.
We also received responses from the artists who were talking about religious conflicts. In this section, we explore the religious ideas either learned while growing up or learned later in life. Many times, our quest for self-search, we interrogate the different imposed behaviors or institutions even, and here the artist reflected on those ideas. Um, we chose as an example this photograph by Tina Hernandez, La Mujer de Maíz, which is inspired in the Popol Vuh story of it's a Mayan story of the creation of the world. And with this image, she is telling the viewer how she, at some point, she became aware of her heritage in this way, and she now is proud of that, of being the descendant of La Gente de Maíz. And with this image, she makes the viewer inquire in their own ancestors. And then we move on to environmental issues.
Yeah, we received also some of the works are related to environmental issues. So here the pieces of this section explore the environmental impact of modern life, the consequences of centuries of environmental blindness, as they call, as some of the artists call it. Also, we have like dystopian landscape, destruction, devastation, and also the effects, of course, of years of careless exploitation of resources. And the work we selected to kind of exemplify this section is here by Gabriel Martinez, and it is made of found fabric that he just picks it up from the street, which basically is trash. And he's reflecting here in many things, like because he's textile, he's thinking about labor, the labor involved to make this fabric, but also the environmental impact of certain companies that made clothes. And also he's thinking about second chances and how objects or found objects that are usually considered trash can be, can have a second chance, a second opportunity. And he's elevating those pieces of textiles as art just to put it together in a beautiful piece. And then we have the following section,
which is resilience. Also, we got a lot of responses from the artists who look at these conflicts, but from a positive point of view. In this section, we group those artists and that responded to the resistance in a positive light. Recognizing, yes, the challenges, but also recognizing and celebrating that ability to overcome, to heal, and to recover. Artists are talking here about things and ideas such as family unit, the sense of community, and even personal traditions that are an act of resistance on its own. Um, they are focusing on that positive approach to face the adversity and obstacles. And precisely because of that, we chose this work by Lorena Morales titled Still Here. With her work, she is talking about the human capacity to overcome difficulties. She is using materials that are resistant to the passing of time, and she is using that analogy to restate that human capacity of being resilient. Then we move on to quarantine experience.
Yeah, and of course, because when we released when we started this exhibition, it was like a couple of months after all this craziness started. So we knew we were going to receive works or at least projects related to the quarantine experience and COVID and how it affected our lives. And of course, we did. So a lot of the works we received deal with um, how the artists experience the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as changes they observe in the world, and how they were reflecting on how our life is going to be, or how am I feeling regarding to that. So we got different approaches, from like very positive ones, like I'm gonna just focus on work and kind of an introspective sort of mood, and then others deal with the anxiety they were feeling or they were experiencing, or they saw other people experiencing. So the work we chose is by Veronica Ivermein. It is a beautiful installation, and she here explored the concept of windows. And this started as a kind of a community involvement project, because she started to ask people just through social media to send her images of their view to the outside world. Because of course, as we know, not everybody experienced the quarantine as we did here in Houston. We were lucky in the sense that we were always able to at least walk around our neighborhoods. I mean, in other places, it was not like that. So the only contact of people with the outside world was the window sometimes. So she started receiving all these overwhelming amount of different windows, different views, and she started to explore what does it mean to be in the inside or on the outside, and how we feel protected in the inside when we're outside is a different feeling, or when people are kind of curious to see what's going on inside. So she's asking all sorts of questions, but this was a project that was born during quarantine. So yeah, that's the example we chose for this section. And then we move on to the next and last section.
Yes, we were lucky to have this as first with the museum. This is the first time that this wing, the Human Rights Gallery of the museum, is being intervened with an art exhibition. We are so grateful for the museum, to the museum, for allowing us to do this. And we decided to take this opportunity to take the work and put it in the artwork and put it in conversation with the information that already is being disseminated in this gallery. In this section, we deal with issues of freedom, equality, non-discrimination. Other artists talk about issues like the right to vote, issues related to the criminal justice system, and in the inequality of how justice is relative to a person's skin color. In this gallery, we take the opportunity to add these artworks and apply it to contemporary issues. And here we have the third prize winner. This is the artwork by Clinton Millsap, Could Be King. And with this artwork and the title, Could Be King, it's so powerful because the artist is basically verbalizing the empowerment of an African immigrant, and the play on words that Simba, the subject's name, in another space, in another time, could have been king. So this artwork is inviting us to think and put ourselves in that position. And this is, with this, we close the tour of Withstand.
And we welcome questions and comments.
Yeah,
Thank you.
before we go to the Q&A session, Gabriela and Rosa, I wanted to make sure that I introduced Dr. Jesse Esparza, who has joined us this evening. Welcome. And he currently serves as chair of the museum's Latino Initiatives Advisory Committee. So Dr. Esparza will be sharing with us tonight an overview of the fascinating work that his committee is doing. But he is a little bit more about him. He's an esteemed professor of history at Texas Southern University. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. And I will let you manage the Q&A and open up the discussion. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Zuniga, for the introduction, and you know, I wanted to say hello to my former student and dear friend and colleague now, Gabby. It's great to see you. And to everyone, thank you all for joining us for tonight's plática and talk about the exhibit. It's been wonderful. So my name is Jesse Esparza, and presently I am the chair of the Latino Initiatives Advisory Committee, the LIAC. And as I say all the time when I sort of talk about this group, we're a collective of artists, of educators, of activists, community organizers, and many, many other things who, since 2016, I think, we have been, as a group, been supporting the programming that comes out of the Spanish outreach and Latin American initiatives there at the Holocaust Museum. And so similarly, we, like the museum, work towards educating a variety of communities about the dangers of hate, the dangers of prejudice and apathy and those kinds of things. And we use the lessons of the Holocaust and other genocides and other atrocities in the name of healing and social justice. And that's what the Latino Initiatives Advisory Committee is. It's been a blessing to be a part of it. In terms of tonight's event, I must say that I am truly inspired by the presenters and by the artwork that they have been revealing to us. It reminds me in many ways of the artistic expressions of previous decades of the Chicana and the Chicano movement in many ways. That is to say, I get a sense of art with social justice as its theme. And that's what I've been sort of hearing tonight, this idea that the artists and the work that they do, they attempt to and do effectively, I feel, address the issues that impact our communities: poverty, racism, sexism, family separation, and things of that nature. And so their art in many ways is designed, and the work that they do in many ways, at least as I feel, is designed to expose those social ills, to bring attention, and so as to eradicate them. And not only do I get a sense of injustice, I also get a sense, and this is what really resonated with me, I get a sense of this spirit of resistance through this artwork and through the work of these artists and certainly our presenters tonight. That is community resistance through art. And that's a very powerful concept. And I think that art in many ways lends itself towards social justice and civil rights and activism and those kinds of things. And so I applaud all the artists, all the contributors, and I applaud the presenters who I feel not only captured the aesthetic and the cultural values of the Latinx community today, but who I think and I feel have sustained and expanded this theoretical framework of the multifaceted movements that we find ourselves a part of or that we find ourselves in presently. I mean, there are several forms of oppression. I don't have to tell you all that there are several forms of oppression that currently exist. And so certainly there are responses to those oppressions. And for me, I see some of that response in tonight's art and in tonight's work from the artist and from the presenters. And so I'd like to tell the artists and the contributors and certainly the presenters, I'd like to tell them thank you. I'd like to say out loud publicly so that everyone on this Zoom can hear that I see their work and I see their activism and that I recognize the struggle and the efforts and the way they are trying to communicate to the rest of us. And I thank you. I thank you for sharing it. And I'm sure everyone on the call tonight thanks you as well. And so to everyone else, right, I'd like to encourage you all to please learn more about these artists and please learn more about their work and certainly learn more about the activism that they engage in. It's truly inspiring. And I'll end, because I only have a few minutes, I'll end by saying, again, thank you for joining us for tonight's event. Thank you for the opportunity and for providing space to talk briefly about the Latino Initiatives Advisory Committee. I encourage you to learn more about this committee and the work that we do. We are eager to partner with you and eager to work with you, and we're eager to solve problems with you. And so I hope that you enjoy tonight, and I hope that you continue to be safe moving forward. Thank you.
Dr. Zuniga, you're on mute.
I was going to say, Dr. Esparza, would you like to take the lead on the Q&A? You have some questions in there.
Let's see here. All right, well, so I don't see any questions from the audience, at least they're not coming in yet. And I think that Rocio can assist with that as well. And as Gabby and Rosa Ana, who I had not had the pleasure of meeting yet, but it's been a pleasure listening to you. You know, there's a comment that I like to read from Susanna, if that's okay. It says on here that she sort of commends the Holocaust Museum for the leadership in making sort of the tangible connections between history and current challenging issues facing the Latinx community in Houston and across the Americas. And so I'll generate a question from that to Gabby and to Rosa Ana. When you all sort of conceptualized this, did you all start with looking at Houston specifically, or was it the intent to sort of produce this pan-hemispheric kind of exhibit? Anybody can answer.
Well, we decided to do it locally from Houston Latinx artists. And of course, like we mentioned during the presentation, many of the artists all of them are living and working here in Houston, but some of them are from here or from other countries in Latin America, but they are all living and working in Houston.
Yeah, and we really wanted to kind of focus on the community because we feel it's important to create community, because, and that's why, I mean, we asked, and we're so grateful that we were able to have an artist preview on Tuesday only for artists, because we felt like we knew most of them, but personally we didn't know all of them. And because of the pandemic, we couldn't visit studios or anything. Well, you know, for the selection process, it was all through like the submission and all the materials. It was kind of a very, very strange process. So we felt like it was important to create that kind of community, that possibility for the artists to meet each other, to kind of collaborate. Who knows what can, you know, what can come from here. And that's the idea of this exhibition. We feel first, it's going to stay until October, so we have plenty of time to organize all sorts of things, and we are planning on, and also for the artists to kind of see the work of each other and see, oh, maybe we can collaborate, maybe we can, just to start like a platform. That was our idea.
Well said, well said. Victoria has a question. Her question is, what has been the biggest challenge exhibiting Latinx art in Houston?
I think that a challenge would be that it is long overdue, as many of us know. But mostly, well, challenge to us, it was a very gratifying experience, because we got to know the artist stories. But it's like Rosanna mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the open call came out while we were in isolation.
Yeah.
So we didn't have the opportunity to go to the artist studios and get to know them and their practice. So that was a challenge for this exhibition. That was a big challenge.
And another challenge I will add, that is just we received over 200 submissions that were excellent, and we had to kind of narrow it, because otherwise, I mean, it's already immense. So that was a challenge for me. It was a challenge to you know, but well, it was a process. But that was, I would say, another, which is a good challenge to have, right? To have so many good works. But yeah.
I have a question from Alyssa. She's curious about the process of organizing the show. Was the intention to form the show from common themes, or was it taken from the submissions themselves? And how did you go about organizing this in the way you did?
Well, I can start answering that question. I mean, there are like two main ways to do an exhibition. One is to have already a theme, and then you choose the works. according to that theme or sub-themes. But because we did it as an open call, we needed to wait until just to see what we received. And we, of course, set up the resistance and times of conflict. And we of course, we had an open call with a theme, but very wide. And we just waited and see what we received. As we were reading the submissions, we kind of knew that we were going to be able to find sub-themes to kind of organize it. And we also wanted to give it like some cohesiveness, because it is a collective of more than 70 artists. It is very hard to have also visually and just that it makes sense for the visitors. So that was one way that the way we did this particular exhibition. Gabi, I don't know if you want to add something. Gabi?
That is, you said it, yes. Because we started as an open call. Yes, we were just waiting to see what issues the artist community responded to, just based on the theme of resistance. And that was, I think that was the way to do it, because in that way we allowed the community to say what they needed to say. And I feel like that's a key point here. Sometimes, well, we need that opportunity to be heard. And that's what we got from this open call.
Sorry, I was muted. Gabby, you mentioned the word opportunity, and in fact, that's a question from a viewer and a listener, Shira. And please forgive me if I mispronounce your name, but she's asking, what do you all see coming out of this exhibit? Is it an opportunity for the artists? And if so, what kind of opportunities? I know that Rosa was talking about them having an opportunity to talk to one another, and possibly that can lead to some other kind of programming. But Shira wants to know, what do you all see? What do the both of you see coming out of this exhibit tonight?
I think that's a very important question, because at the end of the day, we have to look at the future. This is a platform that will serve to, yes, for a long lasting, hopefully, change in society. So I think that because we have the opportunity to have this exhibition open for so many months, it's going to run until October. Uh, so we are going to have the opportunity to partner with different organizations in the community. We are lucky to have at the Holocaust Museum an excellent education team led by Michelle Tovar, who is really doing the work of partnering with other organizations, other activities. So it's basically, it is going to provide that platform to talk about difficult questions. And the good thing about this, having these many themes in this exhibition, is that it provides the opportunity to talk about many things and throughout the months that the exhibition is going to run. So I honestly believe that it's going to have long lasting impact in the community, in the artistic community and the community at large.
Yeah, I will only add, because basically that's what I was also going to say. But we hope to have created just the beginning of something much bigger. That's our hope. That we hope that from here, other museums, like they will open the doors to exhibit Latinx art more frequently. We hope that other institutions will be more interested in the Latinx issues we're facing. And also we hope from visitors to reflect on issues that they may not even be aware, because they don't know, not because they're not interested, it's because just they don't know. So that's what our hopes, big hopes.
Yeah, and Carolina echoes some of those sentiments. She states that this exhibition has both made the artist's work visible and has always also given them the opportunity to connect and meet. So well said. And I'm wondering, right, this is a question for Dr. Tovar. Gabby, you mentioned, Michelle, how is it that the Holocaust Museum is hosting this exhibit? How was it that conversation started, and what is the significance of holding an exhibit such as this in the Holocaust Museum?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Tovar, for that question. That is an excellent question because we can take those lessons that the Holocaust teaches us and lift that conversation up and enhance the museum's vision and mission in the same way or in a similar way that the Human Rights Gallery is doing right now, just expanded that conversation on violations of every kind, other genocides that happen in many Latin American countries. And we can relate that to contemporary issues that the artists are talking about, um, raising awareness and preventing those what happened with the Holocaust to prevent that from happening again.
Yes, I will only add that to me, it is a wonderful opportunity to create a deeper conversation of the Holocaust, what happened, and what can we learn from that, and also to relate to other issues that we are having currently in the Latinx community. I think it adds, it doesn't take away, it just adds.
Jose mentions in the chat, hashtag museums are not neutral. And he goes on to say, can we say that the HMH is given a big step towards this new movement, this institutional approach, Latinx work, and living local Latinx work? So, I mean, you know, what is the role of the institutions? What is their responsibility towards this, and or who does the responsibility fall on to get this work out? It's a hustle. I understand that. I understand that it's difficult at times to get the message out and to get people to listen. I logged on, there's about 99 persons logged on tonight. So certainly it's gotten attention. You know, is the museum a safe space? And if so, do you anticipate other safe spaces like that moving forward after October?
I think that it's really important from the standpoint of the platform is that we are a safe space, and inclusion and equity are very, very important to us. And so we're using this wonderful, wonderful example of how inclusion can be so enlightening, right? And exposure to other communities. And so we plan on doing this a lot more within all the diverse communities of Houston, so that people do feel safe. They feel that this is a place of safe discussions and expression. So I'm so glad you're here, Dr. Esparza, so that people understand that we do have this initiative that you're leading. There will be programming more associated with these topics in the future. And really, especially with over 100 people on here, we want to encourage you to become more involved in the Latino initiatives as well. I was looking at the questions too, and I thought this is another one from Dr. Javar, is I want to ask, how will this exhibit inspire students, specifically students of color? I thought that was a great question.
I think that is another very important question, Dr. Tovar, because I can say by my own experience, like Dr. Esparza mentioned before, it was when I took his class many years ago that it changed my life. And because like I've said before, representation matters. So when you see someone, your people in these positions of power being represented, being heard, it makes a world of a difference. And I can say by my own experience that that's why I'm here, because I've seen that it can happen. People with like Dr. Esparza, Dr. Tovar have made me make the decisions that I've made. So I believe that exhibitions like this are so important because being a museum that receives many school tours from all different grades, different ages, it's going to have a lifelong impact on their lives.
Yeah, and I think as immigrants and people of color, but also people from different backgrounds, I think it is important to see that you are being heard, that your voice is being heard. So I think it is definitely inspiring. So
And I'm wondering, the questions are pouring in, and is there a way that maybe Gabby and Rosa Ana, that you all can address some of those questions? Would you be all right if I don't know, if they emailed questions and you can respond that way? And then also, Dr. Zuniga, I thought I saw a comment on there. Someone was asking about the times that they might be able to come either virtually or physically to the museum to come and look at the exhibit. And then someone made a comment about would they be able to see some of this information on the HMH website?
Yes. So what's really important about this is that we will create a virtual tour of this exhibition. And it's just amazing. You'll be able to view it and just reserve your time and then view it wherever you are. So we'll have that. And then as Rosanna was talking about, this goes all the way through the Latin X Heritage Month. So it'll be here. We also will be having 3 free days, one in June, one in July, one in August, so that we really and have really quite fun entertainment and experiences on those days at the museum to encourage the community to have a great access to it. But I wanted to remind you, because I did see this in the Q&A, is that students are free at our museum. So if you are 17 or younger, you're in school, when the school groups start coming back in the fall, they all come in for free. So even as a visitor on the weekend, please come and visit us. Bring your brothers and sisters. They can all enter for free. Adults are $19, but we really believe in providing the broadest access as possible. So great place for kids.
yeah, and also the museum is open to the public as we speak. I mean, you already open after COVID. It's just, of course, they have to do, I think, online reservations and wear the mask. But yeah, it's open.
Very safe. So come on in. All right.
And for those that did not see that yet in the chat, Gabby posted an email where you all can submit your questions if we've not had a chance to discuss them and address them tonight.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, I wanted to thank Dr. Esparza for your commentary. I really appreciate your leadership and Latino initiatives. Gabriela and Rosa Ana, you have been working so hard this week. We had an opening today at the museum. I think there was over 800 people that came in today, and it was quite exciting. But thank you for not only your beautiful, beautiful exhibition, but your time this evening and your commitment to our mission and providing opportunities for others to learn and grow from that experience. So thank you so much. And thank you to the audience for joining us virtually tonight. And keep an eye on our website. We have programs all the time. And we hope that you'll become members of the museum so that you constantly receive updates and information as to where we're going and our newest exhibitions, and of course, all of our events. So good evening, and thank you again for our speakers and our curators, and have a nice evening.